what I'm going to do tonight for everybody is a lot of my demos and almost all of my demos, I try to make them so that people that own mini and midi lathes can do them. And what I'm going to do tonight is take you through the steps, right? A lot of people make little bud vases. Let me put this, let me flip this lens around here. Flip this camera around. Okay. All right. So now a lot of people make little bud vases. And when they sit there, right, they just look very plain. Right? So if you have plain wood, you know, it's okay. But what I have done with a lot of my hollow forms, and especially my smaller things, what I do is I put a black base and I put a black thing on the top to hold the tube. And what it does, it frames your piece of wood that you're using, no matter what shape it is. You can get like this one here, you can get underneath it and it's got a black bottom. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take you through the steps real quickly of how to do the inserts and how to finish the vase without a tenon, right? Which saves you a lot of time, right? You can drill all these things standard so that they fit your tubes, right? And that way you can do production work. But it really enhances the look of a little bud vase. It looks like a little gallery piece. Anyway, so just to make a long story short, the very first thing we're going to do, right, is we are going to, we'll put it this way, we're going to put a piece of wood between centers and we're going to make it round. And we're going to put a tenon on it. Everybody got that? Step one.
Got it.
Okay. Step two, we're going to put it in a chuck on the tenon. And then we're going to take and we're going to drill it with a Forstner bit. Let me just set this up here so it'll sit. We're going to drill it with a Forstner bit first that is larger than the hole that you need for the glass tube. Then the next thing we're going to do while it's on the lathe, I'm using a 12 millimeter tube tonight. So I'm using a 13 millimeter drill. And I'm going to go all the way through. So you can see it's been drilled all the way through. Okie dokie. Everybody's got that, right?
Got it.
Okay. The next thing we're going to do, all right, I'm going to put my camera up here. Somebody's going to have to tell me if it's, can you see that?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay.
Right on the money, right on the dot.
So welcome to the Tucker Insane Asylum. So now, let me get it. And so now what we have to do, right, is we have to measure our hole to make the insert cap for the top. And typically when I set the calipers, what I do is I measure the exact distance of the hole, and I just make it just a tad proud. That gives me the chance to do a fine fit. Okay, so what I've done is I've taken a piece of, this is This is actually a gaboon ebony. You can use African blackwood, you know, whatever. Or if you just don't want to invest in that type of wood, let me get this here. I'll be right back. Then you can use 5 Bangs leather dye and get a U.S. Marine Corps black. It will make any wood black, black, black. And then you can put, if you want to put super glue finish, you want to put wipe on poly or whatever over it, that's fine. But this is great if you want to make wood black. Okay, and you can get that at like Tandy Leather or probably Walmart, all these other places. Okay, so what we've done is we've measured that hole and we've made it just a little proud. So now I'm going to take this little, I can't say the word scrap, it was a leftover piece. And we're going to, I'll be throwing out. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this so that it fits in the hole. And make sure to round off your calipers so that that you don't put a point into a spinning piece of wood. So there we go. Okay, so I've got that approximate size that I've made just a little proud. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a chamfer on it. Why do I put a chamfer on it?
Makes it easier to go in there.
No.
Prevent the grain from splitting on the edges.
No.
The bud vase has a roll over the top of it.
Measures the size of the hole he needs.
Thank you. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to back this off. We always put a chamfer on when we're trying to fit pieces. So now we're going to take our body. We're going to put it on that chamfer. And I'm going to spin it like this. Okay, you see that little shiny spot right there? Can anybody see that little shiny spot?
Oh yeah, we got it.
Oh, yeah.
We see it.
Designate your high spot.
So that's the exact size of the hole that's here. So now we're going to put this back and we're going to make this fit. Okay, I just made that little shiny spot just disappear. So now this is something that I learned from a good lady by the name of Cindy Drozda. She says when you're, doing lidded boxes and hollow form, mixing, matching woods and all that, she said if it takes you 20 times to make the fit right, then do it. Now look at this. See that? It's just squeaky. See that? And now I've got a burnish mark all the way up there. So now I'm going to put it back. And because we're going to have a curved surface up here, I have to make an undercut so that the outer rim is the only thing that touches the wood. So I'm going to use a skew. I use a round skew, and I parallel the skew with this tenon. Now it was just a little bit squeaky right there, so I'm just going to do that. Now I'm going to take, can everybody see what I'm doing?
Yes.
Yes.
Sir.
We're going to keep this blade here parallel to the tenon. I'm going to touch this on the edge. I'm just going to slowly make the undercut. Oop. Okay, now we're going to stop the lathe and we're going to fit it. Make sure that it fits because we're not coming back. So what we're going to do is we're going to slide it on there, and you see that now the outer rim just fits, except where you heard me catch that thing. You see how I scraped up that edge? So what we're going to do is we're going to make a sideways cut, or what we call the dome cut, when we're doing an insert. And we do that with a spindle gouge. Let me put this back up in here. So now we're going to take our spindle gouge and we're going to make the cut halfway down the blade. We lock the heel of our hand. We don't drag it. All we're going to do is rotate it. Can you see where the end of the handle is on my body? So all I'm going to do is rotate my hips. I come halfway down the blade. And I rotate. Now that's a pretty big overhang for this. I don't want it too big because we're going to have I'll make one more small cut. And I lift the handle and I make the cut line be pushed by the point and I start to make my dome. See that? Here it comes, I'm going to come. That's what I call the dome cut. And this edge now is razor sharp. There will be no tear out whatsoever. And because it is so sharp, it's like a little razor blade, right? I like to take just a little 800 right there and just touch it. Okay, so we take it off and we're going to do one final fit. Perfect. See, there's no gap all the way around and there's no wiggle, right? It's very important. Okay, so now what we can do is we can knock this spruce thing around. And let's find a chuck to put on there. Now, when I made this piece here, I made it between centers. I didn't start off in a chuck. Why do I always start fitting things between centers? Does anybody know?
Easy to go back to zero again.
I can always go back to center instead of having to try to wobble this thing around to get center. So before I tighten that down, I'm going to bring the center back up. We'll get it in that center hole. Let me come back just a little. Let me come back with that just a little bit, because I want to be able to cut that off. Oh, I don't have to, because it already fits. I don't have to cut it off, so I'm okay. I'll go ahead and take it in a little bit. Already fits in there. Okay, we'll lock that in and hopefully it'll spin true. Now let me lock. I did not lock my tailstock down before I establish center. So I'm going to back it out, lock this down. That should run better. Okay, so now we've got to make the dome. Do I want that dome that high? I don't think I want it that high. Let me make it a little bit less. Okay, so now I've made my dome and I know that it fits. So now I'm going to take and I'm going to drill through, because the glass tube has to fit through there. Let me crank this back. Anybody has any questions or anything? Just let me know. This is a fairly simple project, but it's something that everybody can do on their little mini lathes and midi lathes and enhance the look of their little bud vase. Now, before I drill, I've got to turn this speed down. I've got that running about 500, 507. Okay, and as we approach this, right, we don't just start cranking in. What we do is we come in very, very slowly, and the drill should then center itself and just go very, very slow. And since there's going to be a glass tube in it, we've got to go all the way through this little insert piece. Okay, I'm through. Drill out of there.
I know you're going slow so that you don't chip the wood out, but there is a possibility of heat buildup cracking the wood.
If it's not dry, because it'll form a lot of steam.
Okay, thank you.
I'm all of my students get taught the mantra. There's three things that you always have to keep saying to yourself while you're turning. Sharp tools, tiny bites, how slow can I go? When you go slow, you're allowing the tool to do the work. You're not forcing it, right? And you don't have to go back and make another cut. You make your final cut and that's it. So I'm just going to take a little 400 right in there. I'm going to take a little 400 on the outside. Because I've got to have this. We know that it fits exactly, but now we've got to be able to have it sanded so that we can buff it out, polish it up. So we won't go back. This won't take long. And again, don't do a real high speed sanding operation, because a lot of woods, you can actually burn the wood with sandpaper, right? And then you wind up with a weird burnish mark on it. It takes you forever to try to get that out. So I've just done here with a little bit of 400. All right. And we'll take a look at it. We'll see if there's any radical lines in there. No, it looks pretty good. So now we'll take our 800. We just put a little 800 quick. Okay, and then what's the last thing we always do before we ever put finish on any wood whatsoever? What's the last thing we do?
Wipe it with DNA.
Wipe it off.
No, we do random orbit sanding. 800 random orbit sanding by hand so that the human eyeball can never see any scratches on your work. The human eyeball cannot see 800 random orbit scratches because it diffuses the light. You can never sand just to finish with the lathe spinning, because as soon as you put finish on it, the finish is going to magnify all your scratches. And it's just like on a CD, right? If all the grooves are going in one direction, if all your sanding scratches are going in one direction, then any streak, any piece of light in the wood or in the room will make a streak of light across your thing. So as long as you go to 800 random orbit, you won't have any streaks of light across your wood. Okay, we are done. We can finish this one of two ways. I can save it now to buff if I'm going to buff it. Or since this is Gaboon ebony, I don't put any finish at all on Gaboon ebony because it's got sort of a waxy thing, and a lot of times you get a little orange peel. I could use triple E or EEE Ultra Shine on this, or I can save it to buff with Vonex. Which do you want me to do?
Onyx.
Okay, all right, then we'll take this out of the lathe or out of the chuck. We'll come back when we're polishing and we'll polish. Now, if we go to our piece of wood, right, it fits exactly, right? There's no gap whatsoever, right? And the problem's going to be is to knock it back out. Let's see, maybe we can get it back out of here. Let's get a longer drill. Well, I'll just put that drill. I got a pencil here. Maybe I can.
Knockout bar.
Yeah, your knockout bar's right there at the lathe.
Mickey, I knew there was some wood turners in this outfit.
Yeah.
Yeah, they hide in the crowd.
Okay. All right, here we go. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to do is we are going to sand and finish and shape. We're going to shape this thing, and we're going to do it between centers. We're going to get rid of the tenon, because the problem, if we have a tenon on there, then we can never get around to where we need to be to finish the bottom. We're always going to have to turn around and try to horse with that. That just upsets me, because I don't want to do one more thing than I have to. All this small stuff. So we're going to work between centers, and we can finish it completely between centers. So I just put an old piece of found wood on there. Make a little cone, right? And so we're going to put the cone right in here like this. We're going to bring our tailstock up. And we're going to make whatever shape we want. So this is an end grain piece. So we have several choices. We can use a bowl gouge. I don't know what type of shape we'll do on the top here. Let's see if we've got a, maybe I've got a roughing gouge around here somewhere.
Folks, I want to interject. This is a slicing cut with a bowl gouge. Watch the work.
No, this is a roughing gouge.
With a roughing gouge, pardon me, sir. But it's a slicing cut.
Okay. Now, if you can all see this, right? You can see how shiny that wood is. There's almost no sanding required. Right? Let me just finish this shape. All right. To get right in there, I can't use this roughing gouge because it's going to hit my cone. So I'll just take my spindle gouge, right? And I'll go in there.
Is that with your normal grind that you put on spindle gouges?
No, it has a convex back. It's the same grind I use. It's got a convex back, right? And a parabolic curve on the front.
It's a like a basic detail gouge
No,
with,
it's
with a steep
exactly,
grind.
exactly opposite of a detail gouge.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah.
I'd
a
love to, I'd
detail
love to know more then.
detail gouge has a fat back to it, has a fat back, and people make a concave grind on it. And unfortunately, you can't do as fine a work with that detail gouge as you can with a deep flute spindle gouge. A detail gouge is made to reach way over the tool rest. Got a fatter back. I'm bringing this down a little bit because I want a little bit flatter top on this. There we go. We came right through. Now all I've got to do is just push the tailstock back up. Right, we'll get rid of this little ring. Right. There we go. And we'll have it cut right there. Okay, let me go back to my roughing gouge here. So now I finish. I've got one little flat spot in there somewhere. Oh, that's a crack in that wood. That's what it is. Okay, so I'm going to do, if you will notice, on all of my pieces, right, I do ball-to-ball construction. So that this ball and this ball meet, and you can never tell where they actually join. I personally just abhor when you put a flat piece of wood against a flat piece of wood. So anything on the top has to fit exactly, and I do ball-to-ball construction so that nobody can see where they join. And then you do a concave on the bottom, and you always do a little chamfer because you never want the bottom of this piece to hit the table. It looks like a suction cup. You always put an undercut for light. Go to any big gallery. You'll always, they can tell the difference. Okay, anyway, so now I'm going to make my ball. Now, watch what I'm going to, can everybody see what I'm going to do right here? Okay, I'm going to take a tiny bite. I'm going right along my cone center. Now I'm going to crank the cone center in a little bit. I'm going to take another little bite. Okay, crank the cone center in. Right, and you go all the way to the cone center. So that we don't fall. So now all I've got to do is take a little sandpaper and sand this out to the 800 random orbit. And I can reach both sides with my sandpaper. Right? I'm going to shorten the length of this demo down just a little bit. I have one that's already sanded. All right. We have the Forstner bit hole in there, and we have the tube hole in there, and we've made our ball-to-ball thing. So now I'm just going to put it on here, put my cone back in, And the last thing we're gonna make sure to do, let me get a piece of 800. Before we put the finish on, right? Let me just crank that in just a little bit. Lock that. Okay, so the last thing I'm gonna do is do my 800 random orbit. And we're just dispersing the light. But you can do your gallery finish work very quickly with this little stuff. And when I'm doing this, what I do is I'll make 10 of these at a time, so that when I have this cone on, boom, I run 10. Every operation I'll run 10, and I'm not just constantly changing all this equipment on the lathe. Okay, so we've done enough random orbit. All right. I'll just take and blow this off a little bit. Okay. I'm going to use some 3408 tonight. We'll turn the lathe on real slow. Because if you put liquid on a curved surface, it always wants to migrate toward the biggest diameter. So you want to be very careful not to let it migrate. So when you're applying the 3408, you're just going to drizzle it on. Make sure you don't have any gaps in the coverage. And wipe it back and forth, back and forth. We want it to soak in completely. Okay, and it's not stinking or sticking or burning or anything. It's just fine because we've got that time delay in it. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to wipe it completely off the surface. Remember, we never want any type of finish on the surface of wood. We only want it inside the cells. So now I'm getting almost no more residue off. You see, it's not sticking, stinking, burning, smelling, anything like that. We've got plenty of time to work with this because of that time delay. So now I'm going to do what? I'm going to do random orbit with a paper towel, which is about 4,000 grit. Now, since this has a time delay in it, we'd have to let it sit overnight. But tonight, what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray a little accelerator on here so that we can completely finish it. I'm going to use a heptane-based accelerator. I don't use any acetone-based accelerators because people spray the hell out of it. They're spraying acetone on it, and they're dissolving the very super glue they're trying to make acrylic plastic out of. And they wonder why they get cloudy and shiny and all that other stuff. So we're going to stand back. I'm back here about 18 inches. That's it. That's all I ever put up. Because once you start spraying that little bit, as soon as those molecules hit the surface, it starts a chain reaction called polymerization. The molecules are bumping together, generating heat as they're cured, and pretty soon they keep slowing down. They slow them. And as soon as they stop vibrating, you now have clear acrylic plastic. Okay, we're going to take this off. We're going to set it aside while it dries. It's hot. It's polymerizing. Okay, so now we've got a top that fits. Now we've got to make the bottom that fits. Okay, this is a piece of African blackwood, right? I'm going to make it smaller because this one's too big for that thing. But what I've done, I want you to notice, right? All I've done is I had a piece like this, and I put a tenon over here. And I then did my calipers, and I made it the exact size to fit in that hole. Now, you see what I've done? I've put those grooves in it, and I've tapered that off. When I put the glue in there, right, and I put this together, that gives the glue a place to expand into so it doesn't squeegee out and crap up the joint. So always put your glue expansion joints in, and always taper that off. And when you're pushing that in, is you push that little wave of wood into the hole, right? It's got a place to sort of settle and go, because that's like a little piston or a plunger going in there. So what I've done, I had a tenon over here, right? I've made this size, and I've made this cut here. And then after we do that, we've got to make a concave bottom on it. So I'm gonna take this shape down a little bit. Let's see, let me take that thing off. Yeah, these little projects are fun to do if you just want to do something from work or whatever. Go out to the shop for, 45 minutes to an hour. Take an old piece of wood. You're using dry wood, you can bring it to finish. Let me get that closed a little bit more. Another thing you can do, just for safety, right? What you can do is you can take and you can fold this paper towel, right? And right here, just make a little tiny hole, right? And when you put the little tenon through the hole, right? Then when it goes on the jaws, that little paper towel, if you've got a little burr or something like that on your jaw, that'll just keep it cushioned just a little bit. Okay. And now I'm gonna take this down a little bit. I'm gonna have this stuff flopping around. Right. Okay, when in doubt, always say you have any problem, because I don't have the tailstock up here. Right? Let me just make sure that's in good and tight. Okay. So now we're going to reduce the diameter of this because this one's too big. I'm just trying to keep this short. So all we've got to do
Folks, when you're watching this tool, the edge of that tool is almost like a skew at this point.
What?
It's like a skew coming across there.
Yeah, I'm always slicing, I'm always slicing. So that, like, if this is going to be it, if this is going to be the final shape, then let me see. I think that's I'm going to make it just a little smaller. That'll work. And so now all I have to do here is do a little sanding on this cut right here. All right, let me get some 400. All right, let me do a little 800. Do a little 800 random orbit. And we'll take it off the lathe and go ahead and get it finished. Okay, we did good. Okay, I'm going to do a little 800 random. I'm going to do a little 800 random orbit on the top of this thing. Any questions from anybody?
Yeah, Mark, I have a question.
Okay.
You're coming to Louisiana next month in March, I heard. Where else will you be coming? Where else will you be doing anything?
No, April 9th, I'm supposed to be in New Orleans.
Okay, April then. When you come, where else will you be demoing?
I don't have any other things set up. It's too far in advance for me. I'm probably going to go visit my grandson a little bit in Ocean Springs, and I'm trying to be off the road, but I'm open. I'm open for things when I get down.
I was gonna say, anybody, I don't care how seasoned of a turner you are, you owe it to yourself to take one of Mark's classes. At the end of the day, you're gonna walk away from there and say that you learned some things that you never knew.
Well, thanks for the plug.
I'm always plugging you, Mark. It's
Yeah, Mark, I got a question on your applying 3408.
Yes.
Okay, you applied it and then you said you wiped it all off?
You
You
wipe-
didn't have,
You do not want any finish on the surface of wood. You only want it soaked in. That's in,
okay,
no, now wait, let me back that up. There's 1,000 ways to finish wood, right? But all I need if I'm using Parfix 3408 is one coat. Because what I'm doing, it's so thin, it's only 5 centipoids, so it soaks into the wood cells. It goes into less than 1,000th of an inch. So what you're doing is you're really making cellulose reinforced acrylic plastic, like you make a fiberglass boat.
and then by buffing it and using the polish, that's how you get it real shiny?
Well, I hope so.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, here we go. We're going to finish these pieces.
Oh, okay.
So what I've got on here is a product called Vonax, V-O-N-A-X. A lot of you guys are already using it. It's a German made plastic polish. It's made for acrylic plastics, Bakelite, and animal horn. You don't want to run your wheel more than 1,700. I've got this one here at about 1462. So the first thing
Can you,
I do
Mark,
is,
can you back your camera a little bit so that we can see the piece?
oh,
Thank you.
thank you, Ken. Okay, so now we've got this little insert piece. We've sanded it with 800 random orbit. And again, because this is a waxy wood, we don't want to put any finish on it.
Finish takes forever to dry on waxy woods.
By what? Yeah,
Oh,
and
it was-
sometimes it'll beat up a little bit too. Just don't ever hold the piece like this. Don't ever catch an edge. Always have the wheel going away from an edge. Okay, so I've basically buffed this. And then we'll come back and we'll put a little coat of wax on it to fill in the scratches from the buffer. All right. Ooh, I got a little chip out right on that edge. So what I'll do with that is I'll just put my wood burner on that and I'll just darken it down, and it's a natural inclusion in the wood.
A good tip.
You don't want to put a lot of stuff on the wheel. Don't gunk up a wheel.
Yep. Don't use sandpaper to clean a wheel either.
Make a mess.
What are you going to clean that wheel with?
What? What am I going to clean with?
Yeah, if you needed to clean the wheel, what would you clean it with?
Well, if it's really bad, I can take some 60 grit, or I can just take the edge of a knife. Take the edge of a knife and point it a little bit away. It's like a negative rake scraper.
Yep. Use a metal
And you
roller for that.
won't have any residue in the wheel, any sand grit residue in the wheel.
If you use sandpaper, you'll find the grits in the next piece that you buff.
Okay.
Yeah. And you'll never get them out because they'll be embedded in the wax buffing polish compound.
And blank ones on mine.
Okay. Now, we've got our piece. Just one coat, wipe on, wipe off. And it's hard to see over an iPhone or a presentation. If you're here in person, you can see how really unbelievably nice this is. When I do a demonstration, I always pass this stuff around to the whole wood turning club, and I defy anybody in the club to ever find a scratch.
What kind of wood is that there, Mark?
Looks like Western red cedar. It's a real soft wood, actually.
Yeah, you can see the shine coming through on it.
Mhm.
What?
You can see the shine coming through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can use sandpaper to dull it down.
No, 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 no.
Would you put finish on the inside as well?
No. Yeah, I will put a little bit of super glue in here with a paper towel, right? But I really don't need any finish on a bud vase because I want to glue this in here. I want the raw surface. If it's a hollow form, right, then what I do is like an ash urn or something, I'll come in there where the threads are and all that. I'll sometimes put a little glue. But on all of my things like pedestal candle things, tea light candle, all that recess gets glued because it's exposed. But this is going to have the two plugs in here. It's going to be never coming apart again. I think we've done pretty good on this. All right, that's good enough for tonight. All right, now let's put I'll put carnauba wax on it tonight. If you're taking it to a gallery or something, or it's an expensive piece, you can use Renaissance wax, something like that. It will, keep it from getting fingerprints. And again, on your white diamond wheel or your Vonex wheel, whichever, with one of those two substances you use, never go above 1700 RPM. And on a wax wheel, I like to be somewhere between 900 and 1000. If you spin your wheel too fast, then the substance that's in the wheel that's holding the pumice, right, will cake up and put little strips on the surface. And then you have to, get everything off of your wheel, right, to pick it back up off the surface. Okay, we'll take our little alrighty. I think that's pretty good. We'll take our bottom piece. Looking pretty good. And again, same thing on the wax. Just put a little bit on it. Don't put globs of it on there. Okay. Then all we've got to do is put our glue in there. And the bottom goes on, and it's ball-to-ball construction, totally clean. You can see behind it, totally clean. Well, if you put your insert in the top, since we did all the measurements and everything. Uh-oh, there's one thing. I took the top off a little bit, so look at that. Oh, wait a minute, this is not the right one, is it? Yeah, it is. No, not. Oh, you know what I did? I know what I did. I
That
fit,
wasn't the piece you started
You
with.
fit it, yeah, you fit it to the piece that you cracked. That's cracked.
right, this piece goes in there. I'll have to sand that out just a little bit. That goes in there and that'll sit. And hang on just a minute. Hang on just a minute. There's the piece that goes in the top. Oh, let me just hit that a little. And then I use the Pyrex tubes, and then when the tube goes in there, the little lip just sits right in there perfect, right? And you have a beautiful little piece, instead of having just a plain piece of wood, right? Like this.
Mark, where do you
Yeah.
get your Pyrex tubes from?
North Carolina Biological.
Okay, thank you.
But what I'm saying, that little black just enhances a piece and it makes your wood look better.
Yeah, it sure does.
Anyway,
Mhm.
that's a simple thing that people can do to take a plain piece of wood and make it contrast a little bit between the black, do a simple project. But you can put this in any gallery, and when you go to a craft show or something, it puts you way above this ordinary.
It sure does. It is beautiful.
It's
Any other
beautiful,
questions?
Mark.
Any other questions?
No, it's just wonderful.
Nice job, Mark.
Yeah,
You
nice
look
job.
good,
Look
Mark.
good.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's great,
Nice
Mark.
job.
Well,
Great
I'll
job,
take-
Mark.
Demo.
thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Appreciate
Great
all
job,
of
Mark. Thanks for sharing, buddy.
you. Okay.
Mark, thanks for standing in on short notice for me. Really appreciate it.
All right. Yeah, I had to get
Right.
permission from the Indian Insane Asylum to let me out for.
Hey, the
Thanks
show
for the-
was great.
Thanks for the lesson on 3408.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. That really helped me out too.
Yeah, I've been doing it
I
all
thought I was
wrong.
doing it right.
Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
somebody still make that holder for the buffing wheel, the aluminum piece that you have screwed in?
Yeah, TMI makes them. You can get them from
T-
Packard Woodworks or Woodcraft carries them. And they've
Well,
got them.
I didn't see them in Woodcraft. That's why I was asking.
Well, I don't know whether, but you can get them from Packard all the time. I've got both the 1 1/4 threaded ones and I've got the 1/8 threaded ones. I keep about 12 or 15 of them here because I ship them out all over the place. And
Craft Supply has them. And
Yeah.
watch if you're buying the buffing wheels, buy them where you're gonna use it individually. You don't want the one that you line up the 3 wheels together.
thank you.
Why not?
Yeah, I love
Because
mine.
one wheel gets in the way of the next wheel. You
Yep.
want to be able to use your whole wheel and rotate your piece. and not being hit in the next buffing wheel.
Okay, okay, makes sense.
Just have to be careful, you guys. Come on. First time you throw a piece, you learn to be careful.
No, it's not that, but you don't want to be hitting it with Vonex when you're trying to put wax on, or vice versa, you know?
Well, not
Well,
only,
yeah, but
the
you use the
extent-
spacers, right?
yeah, the extension, Beal sells the 2-inch, 3-inch, and 4-inch balls so that you can go down inside the bowl too, which is
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot safer than trying to work on that 3-wheel spindle.
Well, I use them both, and I keep the 3-wheel on my other lathe, and use both the ball and the 3-wheel. So I don't seem to have a problem with it, but it's up to you guys.
Yeah, okay.
Mark, I got a question for you about the small ball that you're talking about. Do you spin those RPMs a little faster because it's turning slower?
Yes, you can compensate for that, but an 8-inch wheel, right? The problem is your outside speed. If you go
Yeah.
17, I don't know what the actual contact speed of the outside of that wheel is, but it's more miles an hour than
Oh, yeah.
sometimes that wax, whatever holds that the little rouge in that white diamond wheel or the Vonex wheel, right? It'll paste right up and put little strings in there.
Okay, thank you.
Hey,
think-
Mark,
Any other questions,
Yes.
Mark?
after you put the wax, you know, I was watching you when you wax the bottom piece. The glue still adheres to the tenon, even if there's wax on it.
No, you would take that. I just, if I do get anything like that, I just take my jackknife, right? And I just scrape up that little tenon a little bit. Because,
Okay.
yeah, you don't want to put a coat of wax glue contact.
Okay.
Any other questions from Mark? Say
Enjoyed your
thank you for the
presentation.
demonstration.
Somebody asked for a contact number on the
And-
chat.
404-556-1736. Then go to my website. Everything's on there also.
Do you
Thank-
export to Australia, Mark?
What?
You export to Australia?
Can I send stuff to Australia?
Yeah.
Yes, I can.
Okay.
I can bring it personally if you'll have me a cold glass of Boog's Black Label beer from Tasmania.